the crown prince's long-lost love has returned. I heard the emperor intends to bestow her upon the crown prince as a secondary consort. Overjoyed, I wept. With tear-filled eyes, I packed my belongings, planning to abscond with the money. But the next day, before the golden throne hall, the crown prince wept bitterly, "Father, have mercy. An extra person in the inner quarters means an additional 10 taels of silver in monthly expenses. Your humble son truly cannot afford it. I, Wei Yao Yao, have harbored ambitions since childhood. I vowed to become the richest brat in the entire capital. So I married the crown prince, intending to siphon some wealth from the crown prince's residence. Then make my escape. But my husband, Shaoxing, he was simply too poor. Throughout all dynasties, across the ages, which crown prince ever had a private treasury holding only 50 taels of gold? Which crown prince was so destitute he sold calligraphy on the streets? Unprecedented in history, unmatched for all time. Yet, Shaoxing achieved it. Poor as he was, Shaoxing wasn't entirely without merit. He was also stingy. For our grand wedding, the Imperial Household Department approved a budget of 2,000 taels of silver. Then Shaoxing waved his big dog paw and slashed off a zero. The phoenix embroidered in gold thread on my wedding gown became one stitched in yellow thread. Every movement made me look like a peacock preening for attention. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and told myself to stay calm. Assaulting the crown prince was a criminal offense. Yet the moment Shaoxing lifted my veil, I couldn't hold back, a fist shot out. Shaoxing took the punch, but instead of anger, he smiled. He held out his palm to me with a cheerful grin, assaulting the heir apparent, my dear, carries a 50-tael fine by law. That bastard! The day after marrying Shaoxing, he handed me the household ledgers. I eagerly took them, eagerly opened the crown prince's private treasury, and eagerly discovered only 50 taels of gold remaining, the fine I'd paid last night. Furious, I demanded an explanation from Shaoxing. He leaned lazily against the bed and kindly explained, "As you can see, my estate is indeed impoverished." I glared at him, teeth clenched. This is marriage fraud. Do you understand? Marriage fraud? Shaoxing began acting as regent at 15. Even considering only his official salary, he shouldn't have been destitute. Deception isn't quite the right word, Shaoxing remarked nonchalantly, rolling an antique walnut between his fingers. Beheading or marrying me, which do you choose? This marriage to Shaoxing was something he'd petitioned for directly before the emperor. Truth be told, I hadn't wanted it at first. Marrying into the imperial family meant every move would be scrutinized, far too restrictive for my tastes. The day after the imperial decree arrived, Shaoxing climbed through my window in the dead of night, frowning as he demanded, "Why did you refuse?" He had the nerve to ask. 3 years prior, I'd caught Shaoxing meeting secretly with the eldest daughter of the Grand Tutor. The sachet chinois had given him still hung at his waist. Sniffing back tears, I retorted, "Your Highness already has someone in your heart. Marrying you would be a great injustice to me." Seeing his silence, I steeled myself to demand leverage. Between money and love, one must be chosen. I straightened my back and cleared my throat. 2 voices erupted simultaneously. Who told you I choose money? Shaoxing's face darkened further, his gaze sharp as blades as he fixed it on me. Before leaving, he tossed out, "Then so be it." After a fierce battle within my mind, my craving for money ultimately overpowered my yearning for freedom. I accepted this marriage, my little abacus clicking away furiously. After all, Shaoxing was the crown prince. Even a drop of oil leaking from his fingernails would be enough to make me a fortune. Once I'd raked in a decent sum, I'd find a way to make my escape. I'd buy a 3-courtyard house in Yangzhou and move in with my mother. Back then, I was still too naive. I never imagined my grand money-making scheme would fail before it even began. Not only did I not get a single coin, but I ended up having to pay out of my own pocket. Nor did I ever imagine life in the Crown Prince's residence would be so costly. By regulation, each meal consisted of only one plate of vegetables and a bowl of plain rice, the green dishes utterly devoid of any oil. I had to pay extra to get the kitchen to add a plate of meat. On the day I accompanied the Crown Prince to the palace for the morning audience, I made a special trip to the coal palace. After returning, I cried. Their meals were better than mine. I quit. I'm making a scene. Tears streaming down my face, I pounded on the Crown Prince's study door. Xiaoxing was just about to pop a piece of oil-braised mustard greens into his mouth. Seeing that bright green vegetable, my vision went black, and I nearly fainted. Xiaoxing helped me sit across from him. Glancing at the memorials, he asked, "Something on your mind?" Remembering my purpose, I hesitated, stammering out, "Well, I was wondering, is there still a vacancy in your father's imperial quarters?" Xiaoxing's eyes narrowed dangerously. What? Trying to foist someone on my father? That was a grave offense in any dynasty. I nodded like a chick pecking at grain, my eyes shining. Do you think I'd be suitable? Xiaoxing looked utterly shocked. The emperor is just over 40, only a few years older than your father. I sidestepped the issue. You'll have to call me mother consort then. Xiaoxing couldn't wrap his head around it. Father consort campaigns north and south. He barely has time to bathe. He reeks of sweat. I glared at him. You'll still have to call me mother consort. Xiaoxing sneered. The old man has foot odor so strong it could knock down a 6-foot-tall man. I gave him a thumbs up. To stop me from becoming his mother, Xiaoxing was truly, utterly disrespectful. He could even speak so disparagingly of his own father. Resting my chin on my hands, I muttered, "If it really doesn't work out, I think your third brother is quite handsome too." Xiaoxing's expression grew even colder. Just say what you want. Don't beat around the bush. In the end, Xiaoxing agreed to my request for 3 dishes and a soup at every meal. As Eunuch Wang escorted me out, he whispered, "Your Highness, please don't blame the Crown Prince. He's frugal by nature and eats only those things himself. If there's anything else you're dissatisfied with, just tell this old servant directly." Hearing this, I frowned deeply. Can the Crown Prince endure eating such meager fare day after day? After asking, I suddenly understood. No wonder his eyes always held a faint bluish-black tint. No wonder he refused to consummate our marriage on our wedding night. So that was it, he couldn't perform. All my doubts found their answer in that moment. When I looked at Eunuch Wang again, my eyes held a touch more sympathy, along with the solemnity of entrusting him with a crucial task. Dismissing the servants, I whispered to him, "The Crown Prince worries over state affairs, rising early and retiring late. How can he manage on such meager fare? Add a soup to his meals each day, pork kidney soup, ox penis soup. If the Crown Prince's residence truly lacks funds, draw from my dowry silver." After speaking, I exhaled deeply. I suppose I've become a meritorious subject of Great Liang, I thought. Saving the nation from collapse, propping up the crumbling edifice. For the eternal prosperity of Great Liang, what does this small expense matter? But, this small expense. Actually, it's quite a significant sum. Never mind. After all, the money comes from the same source. Even with Xiaoxing being so stingy, through my tenacious, relentless, tireless, and sneaky investigations, I still discovered a way to generate income. The Crown Prince's residence had an expense specifically allocated for social courtesies. This worked out perfectly for me. For every 10 taels of silver spent on gifts, I'd claim 100 taels in reimbursement. So whenever officials had weddings, funerals, births, or promotions, I was more eager than the hosts themselves. Before long, my little stash grew plump. In my dreams, I could almost see Yangzhou's slender Westlake beckoning me. But good fortune fleets like scattered clouds. My swindling scheme was soon uncovered by Shaoxing. On the day of my father's 60th birthday celebration, he invited both Shaoxing and me as guests. Shaoxing had initially claimed he was too busy to attend. That would have meant I could have done as I pleased. I gleefully prepared the gifts, gleefully calculating how much profit I could make this time. But just as I was about to leave, Shaoxing followed me without a word. My heart pounded wildly the entire way. This unease piqued as Shaoxing and I walked hand in hand through the gates of General Wei's residence. The ceremonial officer held the gift registry and announced, Deputy Minister of Revenue Li Tai presents, a pair of cloisonné vases and a pair of longevity locks. Junior Minister of the Supreme Court of Justice Sun Yan'an presents, a jade pendant and a pre-Qin dynasty painting of flowers and birds. When he reached the gifts from the Crown Prince's residence, the ceremonial officer paused, a rare hesitation. Only after I gave a trembling nod did he continue, from the Crown Prince's residence, a bundle of green onions personally cultivated by His Highness in the rear garden. The words seemed to carry their own echo, sounding eerily ethereal amidst the room's clamor. Their resonance lingered, refusing to fade. The surrounding area suddenly fell silent. All the guests turned to look at Shaoxing and me, their expressions saying more than words could. It was hard to believe that at his father-in-law's birthday banquet, the Crown Prince could be so perfunctory. Shaoxing's face, which had been animated with laughter and conversation, froze for a rare instant. I felt the large hand gripping my arm tighten. Shaoxing gritted his teeth and whispered in my ear, "Didn't you say we spent 500 taels of silver? Where's the money?" I gave a dry chuckle. Isn't it because the Crown Prince's residence is broke? Thanks to me, Shaoxing finally remembered the plants he tended in the back garden. The Crown Prince of a nation, whose greatest passion in life was growing vegetables. While other families' backyards featured rockeries, flowing streams, and pavilions, with winding paths leading to secluded spots, the Crown Prince's backyard was filled with cabbages, rapeseed, and spinach, with chickens clucking and dogs barking. Back in my maiden days, I'd host flower viewing banquets every spring, inviting friends to drink and compose poetry. After marrying the Crown Prince, I tried hosting one. The noble ladies just stared blankly at the cabbage-filled courtyard, utterly lacking any sense of elegance. This time, I pulled off something big. Shaoxing stood outside the fence, gazing at the nursery now planted with crabapple, peony, and tree peony seedlings. The veins on his temples bulged as he gritted his teeth and demanded, "Where are my green onions?" I counted on my fingers as I tallied. A bundle was given for Chancellor Wen's birthday, another for Minister Zhang's eldest son's wedding, and one more for the noble consort's birthday. Shaoxing's face darkened with each word. He clenched his jaw and snapped, "Enough." I leaned in to placate him, "Don't be angry. They all loved them. Chancellor Wen said they were too precious, he'd keep them as heirlooms for his descendants." The imperial consort was even more moved, she ate them despite the tears and snot streaming down her face, saying the Crown Prince's filial devotion was rare. Shaoxing nearly fainted from rage. Eunuch Wang supported him, helping him catch his breath. "Oh, I nearly forgot. My husband. His health seems rather fragile. I had a dream. In it, I lay sick in bed, my eyes as dark and hollow as Shaoxing's. The imperial physician prescribed several expensive herbs. I heard Shaoxing ask the physician with obvious distress, "Is there anything cheaper? Our household truly has no money left." I woke with a cold sweat. The once powerful Crown Prince's residence now stood deserted, its gates rarely graced by visitors. Even the bundle of green onions I sent to the Chancellor's mansion was tossed out over the back wall by the Chancellor's wife. Serving the Emperor is like walking with a tiger, the royal family is so cruel. I changed into plain clothes and went to the study to find Shaoxing. He sat by the lake, poised like a pine tree in the breeze, his posture upright as he held his brush. The area was crowded with people, bustling and noisy. As I drew closer, I nearly stumbled and fell into the water. The Crown Prince of a mighty nation. A scion of the imperial bloodline. Yet reduced to earning silver by writing letters for others. Has the crown prince truly fallen so low? Curiosity got the better of me. How much do you charge for a letter? I asked. A letter penned by the crown prince surely couldn't be cheap. Xiaoxing smiled at me. I live off the people's salary to serve them. I take no payment. I was incredulous. But I've never seen your salary either. The crown prince's residence was this impoverished. I'd almost thought the emperor was withholding your wages. Xiaoxing explained while weeding. The Yellow River burst its banks before the new year, displacing residents on both banks. I donated my entire salary to resettle them. I gave him a thumbs up from afar. At this rate of squandering, I'll be starving before he dies of illness. I'd seen the third prince splurge lavishly in taverns, while the second prince was rolling in wealth, decked out in gold and silver daily. Of the emperor's 3 sons, only Xiaoxing seemed not his own flesh and blood. I couldn't help but feel a little sympathy for him. But that sympathy didn't last long before I started feeling sorry for myself. The reason? The emperor stripped Xiaoxing of his regency duties and took over most state affairs. Court rumors swirled that the emperor had grown weary of the crown prince. The political winds shifted dramatically overnight. But I knew the truth. Xiaoxing was deposed purely because he was too stingy. The current sovereign possessed the bearing of a great general, neglecting state affairs in favor of military campaigns across the land. His daily refrain was, "I shall personally lead an expedition against the northern barbarians, crossing the fishing sea to reach the northern Yuan." Xiaoxing clasped his fists respectfully. "Father, please reconsider. The treasury is empty." His Majesty, brimming with ambition, declared, "I shall march north of Kaiping to subjugate the Altai tribe, ensuring no one dares trespass beyond our great Liang's borders." Xiaoxing knelt. "Father, we truly have no funds left." After several such exchanges, the emperor lost his temper. In my view, Xiaoxing's position as crown prince is precarious, let alone his role as regent. When the emperor picks food, you turn the table. When the emperor enters, you smash the nest. How did I end up marrying such a troublesome creature? Xiaoxing ultimately cut off my financial lifeline. He had eunuch Wang take over the affairs of social obligations with the major noble families. I overheard this. I also overheard eunuch Wang protesting, "Your Highness, aren't you being a bit harsh on the crown princess?" I silently gave him a thumbs up. Harsh? He's downright insane. Immediately after, I heard Xiaoxing's ambiguous voice, "Whether she can escape is her own skill, but whether I can keep her here is my own talent." I didn't get that. 8. Still, I had to make my escape. To fund my getaway, I enthusiastically devised a money-making plan, writing popular novels. That's right. Wei Yao Yao, the eldest daughter of the general's household, also possessed another identity, Master Ling Yun. The best-selling novels in the capital all came from my pen. Last time I visited Xiaoxing at the bookshop, the owner eyed my maid hesitantly before whispering, "When will Master Ling Yun's new work be released?" "It's already sold out across the capital." To maintain the dignity befitting a future empress, I shrugged and declared, "I'm done with this." But now, starving to death, who cares about dignity? Back at the crown prince's residence, I locked myself in the study for 3 days. With brush and ink, a tragic love story leapt onto the page. I wrote these stories initially just to vent my anger. The nobles and aristocrats of the capital, any who crossed me, were destined for a memorable tale. When the heir to the Duke of Qing stole my parrot, rumors spread across the capital overnight that he had a taste for leeks and was prone to flatulence. When Princeton made improper advances toward my maid, whispers soon circulated about His Highness's fondness for men. These tales I wrote were half-truths, half-fabrications. As for this time, I showed mercy and made Xiaoxing the protagonist. Naturally, I wouldn't dare use Xiaoxing's real name. To obscure his identity, I gave him the surname Wei and split his given name Xing into Sun and Achievement. The moment the story hit the market, it sold out in less than a day. The bookstore owner immediately ordered a reprint. Deep into the night, I curled up in my bed, counting the silver notes I'd earned and laughing wildly, almost pounding the bed. Xiaoxing pulled me out, feeling my forehead. Have you gone mad with joy? Meeting his dark, piercing gaze, I trembled, inexplicably guilty. I straightened my back, putting on a brave front. You're the one who's gone mad. Something was off with Xiaoxing. Could he have found out? It hadn't even been a day. Unless he's my fan. Besides, though Xiaoxing acts less than human most days, he's quite fond of reading the classics. He should be too busy to waste time on such trashy storybooks. When I received the money today, to ease that niggling guilt, I even specially sent him a nourishing tonic. Xiaoxing shed his outer robe, extinguished the lamp, and lay down beside me without a word. My turbulent emotions gradually settled. I tucked the stack of banknotes under my pillow, just in case Xiaoxing decided to help himself. It must have been my soup delivery that moved him. That's why Xiaoxing was willing to abandon his bed frame, barely covered with a single quilt, to sleep in my luxurious rosewood bed with its carved auspicious dragons and cloud patterns. Just as I was drifting into a deep sleep. In the darkness, Xiaoxing's hoarse voice broke the silence. Wei Yao Yao, why must I bear the Wei surname? The words exploded like thunder in my ears, shattering my drowsiness into 1,000 pieces. The evening breeze swept in, carrying with it my stumbling, reckless reply, because I want to be your father. Xiaoxing abruptly rolled over. I thought he would scold me. But he didn't. Xiaoxing embraced me from behind, his scorching chest pressed against my back. Warm breath brushed my ear as he murmured, I could be the father of the child in your womb. Care to try? I instinctively shrank back. No one had ever told me. Earning money in the Crown Prince's residence came at such a price. Xiaoxing's movements froze for a moment. His dark eyes locked onto my face, as if trying to read my expression. After a long while, Xiaoxing released me. He growled a warning in my ear, I'd love to pry open your skull and see what's inside. The Emperor's dignity must not be violated. Got that? He was scolding me for my audacity. I breathed a sigh of relief. But Xiaoxing merely threw on his outer robe and left. I was puzzled, and a little angry. Was I some kind of monster? Why was his pace so quick? Probably because my writing was too thin. Soon everyone guessed the protagonist this time was the current crown prince. As for the female lead, after much deliberation, their eyes fell on Xinwan, the eldest daughter of the Grand Tutor, who had left the capital 3 years ago. Heaven knows. I never once imagined Xinwan in my stories. True couples really are the best to ship. Suddenly, the looks people gave Xiaoxing and me carried a hint of inexpressible pity. Especially me. Because just days ago, Xinwan had returned to the capital. She began appearing, seemingly by chance, at banquets hosted by various noble families. Everyone began speculating that my position as crown princess might not last long. I was overjoyed. I only hoped Xinwan would prove herself. I buried myself in writing the sequel to the Annals of Riche. Xiaoxing had been ignoring me lately. Perhaps Xinwan had unsettled his mind. Out of kindness, I personally brought him a bowl of 10-ingredient tonifying soup. I also had something to ask him. Xiaoxing's face was tense, his tone icy cold, as if I owed him 800 taels of silver. Have you earned enough silver yet? My heart skipped a beat, and I instinctively clutched my money pouch. Xiaoxing sneered coldly, Wei Yao Yao, this is called selling your husband for glory. I finally remembered the purpose of my visit. I lifted the lid of the clay pot and blew on it for him, eagerly trying to please him. Your Highness, how did you know Ling Yun was me? Xiaoxing shot me a sideways glance. His gaze was icy. The crown prince still carried an air of authority, commanding respect without needing to raise his voice. I dared not press further. Instead, I thoughtfully carried the 10-ingredient tonic back to drink it myself. The pen name Lingyun was known only to my personal maid, not even my mother knew it. Wait. There was one other person who knew. That was Jiangsu. He was the tutor my father hired for me, yet he never confined himself to worldly perspectives. The name Lingyun was one he had chosen for me. He said, "Remember the lofty aspirations of youth, vowing to be among the finest in the land. Then let it be Lingyun." But he was already dead. His remains were buried by my own hands, piece by piece. Early the next morning, I took a carriage to Jingshan Temple. In a remote meditation hall, an eternal lamp burned, lit by me for Jiangsu. I stayed for half the day, my mind gradually calming. When I emerged, the sun was already sinking low in the west. Stepping out of the temple grounds, I collided head-on with Shaoxing's face, that persistent specter. I rubbed my eyes, doubting my own vision. Then I looked again. It was indeed Shaoxing. I cursed inwardly at this unwelcome encounter. Yet in this moment, I felt a pang of guilt, fearing I wouldn't know how to explain if he asked. Shaoxing's gaze was sharp, piercing through me like a spear, making my heart pound wildly. Could he have noticed Jiangsu's presence? Would the imperial court tolerate such absurdity? Would I be sentenced to death? Finally, Shaoxing's gaze swept past me, settling on the meditation room behind me. I stiffly craned my neck to look. In the center of that room stood a statue of Guanyin, the goddess of mercy who grants children. The atmosphere suddenly froze. Shaoxing's eyes deepened, his tone becoming distant and teasing. I wondered what my wife sought at the temple. It seems I've neglected her. I exhaled a long breath. I winked at Shaoxing, giving him a look that said, "Stop pretending." I get it. It wasn't really a matter of neglect. I understood his heart was willing but his strength insufficient. These past days, rumors about Shaoxing and Xinhuan in the capital had grown increasingly intense. They had even reached the emperor's ears. I heard the emperor had specially sought out my storybook to read. After finishing it, he was in tears, saying he felt indebted to Shaoxing. I was astonished. Could my storybook truly be that moving? On the return journey, I pressed Shaoxing for confirmation, and he gave me an affirmative answer. He even shared some imperial secrets with me. Father now believes Shaoxing and Xinhuan have a secret affair. He insists on bestowing Xinhuan upon me as a secondary consort. I was overjoyed. My slightly upturned lips promptly drooped when I saw Shaoxing's ashen face. I glanced at Shaoxing's dark, puffy eye sockets. I couldn't help but feel a twinge of sympathy for him. Another person in this world would soon learn the truth about Shaoxing's inadequacy. Under Shaoxing's intense glare, I offered an insincere suggestion. Perhaps we could wait a little longer? There's no rush until your highness has firmly secured your position. Or perhaps after I've had a month to feed him ox penis soup. While Shaoxing's personal dignity was of little consequence, the crown prince's residence still had its pride to uphold. To my surprise, Shaoxing actually smiled this time, his dark eyes sparkling with tiny specks of starlight. Leave it to me. At that moment, I never could have imagined. Even when rejecting a marriage proposal, Shaoxing could manage to embarrass himself in a uniquely distinctive way. The next day, before the Golden Throne Hall, Shaoxing wept profusely, "Your Majesty, have mercy. An extra person in the inner quarters means an additional 10 taels of silver in monthly expenses. Your humble son truly cannot afford it." The emperor's mood at that moment was likely similar to mine. After granting Shaoxing's request, he flicked his sleeve, signaling him to get lost. Don't stand there and be an eyesore. Utterly infuriating. 12. As the storybook circulated widely among the common folk, rumors of the crown prince's private affairs soon took on an air of authenticity. Yet when the crown prince refused the arranged marriage, the emperor ordered the printing of the storybook banned. After this scheme failed, I hung my head in dejection. Shaoxing, however, seemed quite cheerful. Upon returning to the mansion, he began playing the zither. Seated upright in the center of the Eastern pavilion, clad in a blue straight-sleeved robe, his slender fingers plucked the strings as his body swayed rhythmically. Frankly, judging by my own rudimentary year of study, he played quite well. Quite pleasing to the ear. If one could ignore the vast expanse of garlic sprouts behind him. I stood frozen in place. For a fleeting moment, I thought, if Jiangsu were still alive, he'd be doing just this. That's when my father arrived. He interrupted my harmonious duet with Shaoxing, our marital life, as smooth as Qin and Se. I feigned politeness. Father, you look younger lately. He chuckled, it's because you're married now. The house is much quieter. I didn't feel like talking much more. My father never visited without purpose. Seizing the moment when no one was paying attention to me, he asked, how is your relationship with the crown prince? Is what they say about him and Shenwan true? I lifted my gaze to meet his, waiting for his next words. Within 5 seconds, my father spoke hesitantly, can you handle Shenwan on your own? The crown prince's residence isn't like home. Why not let Nian come to the residence to help you? Wei Nian, my half-sister. The daughter born to my father's beloved mistress. When I was little, I envied Wang area next door, who had a father who doted on her. Mother told me then that father loved me too, he just wasn't by my side. I had to wait for father to return. I waited and waited. What would father be like? Would he be more handsome than other fathers? Would he be happy to see me? Would he miss me as much as I missed him? Would he spin me around in his arms like Arya's father? I looked down at my plump little body. I'd gotten fatter again. Would father be too heavy to lift? When I was 7, my father finally returned. It was nothing like I'd imagined. He merely ruffled my hair and said, good girl. Then he turned and lifted a plump little girl from the carriage. After 8 years of war, he'd taken a concubine to keep him company. And a younger sister, Wei Nian, just a year below me. My father was always quiet, his face perpetually grim. I dared not approach him. But later, I discovered he could smile too. He would spin Wei Nian around in his arms, take her out of the mansion to buy her all sorts of novelty toys. He was a father after all. Only his love wasn't meant for me. Occasionally, I would watch from afar as they enjoyed their happy moments in the Yichuan courtyard, looking more like a proper family of 3. My mother and I, however, felt like servants residing in a side courtyard. My thoughts drifted back, and my heart grew colder by the moment. With a bitter laugh, I asked him, has father considered under what capacity Wei Nian would enter the manor? As the consort's younger sister residing as a guest, or brought in directly with the honors befitting a formal concubine? My father's face turned pale and ashen. Finally, he stammered, the rank of consort Liang might be a slight to Nian. What about the position of secondary consort? I marveled at his audacity while rapidly composing my response. My refusal couldn't be too polite, lest father cling to hope, yet it couldn't be too harsh, lest it tarnish the crown prince's household's dwindling reputation. Finally, I spoke stiffly, no. My father seemed to have anticipated this. Why? I closed my eyes briefly before answering truthfully, I dislike Wei Nian. If she were to come greet me every morning, I'd lose my appetite and eat 2 bowls less at every meal. My father's imposing frame trembled. His stern face turned to scold me. Nonsense. How can you even utter such a reason? Perhaps only after scolding did he recall his request. His tone softened. If you truly cannot bear to see Nian, then dispense with her daily greetings. But why let such a petty reason hinder her future prospects? Allowing Wei Nian into the mansion seemed like a rather good idea. She'd surely turn the entire crown prince's residence upside down with her own efforts, leaving Shaoxin no mind to spare for me. I was persuaded. I'm pretty spineless. I do trust General Wei Nian's capabilities. But before I could speak, Xiaoxing's deep voice carried from nearby, "In this prince's view, it is General Wei who is being ridiculous." He strode closer, his broad, powerful hand enveloping mine. His thumb, calloused from labor, scratched my palm unseen by others, once, twice. As if, to show his support. All my negative emotions vanished instantly. My father, ever the pragmatist, immediately apologized. "Your Highness, please forgive me. My daughter has long admired your presence, and I had no choice but to resort to this desperate measure." "What crime has General Wei committed?" Xiaoxing's expression was neither smiling nor frowning, yet his presence commanded respect without anger. "My secondary consort is also to be chosen by General Wei. Why not simply hand over the crown prince's position to him as well?" My father knelt with a thud. "Your servant is deeply humbled." I stared at my father. Xiaoxing nudged my arm and whispered, "What are you looking at?" I murmured back, "I'm checking if father's kneeling posture is correct." Xiaoxing smiled. My father's body, trembling like a sieve, slowly steadied. If you ask me, Xiaoxing is the master of changing his expression. He bent down to help my father up, his tone now as gentle as a spring breeze. "I know the general cherishes his young daughter. A momentary lapse is understandable." At this point, Xiaoxing lifted his eyes and smiled at me. "But the crown princess is also the treasure on the tip of my heart. I cannot bear to see anyone harm her. General Wei, perhaps you understand me? The apple of my eye. My treasure." I could hear my own heart pounding. Thump. Thump. I didn't even notice when my father left. Only when Xiaoxing flicked my forehead with his finger did I snap back to reality. His dark eyes were heavy. I sensed, inexplicably, that he was in a bad mood. After a long silence, Xiaoxing gently pinched my earlobe. "You've been wronged." I nodded blankly. Suddenly, he tapped my forehead again, his voice tinged with disappointment. "Wei Yao Yao, weren't you quite capable in the crown prince's residence? Why let yourself be bullied like this?" I thought he was overreacting. What concerned me more was, I spread my palms toward Xiaoxing, mimicking his earlier tone, "Your Highness, your precious darling is a bit strapped for cash right now. Might I borrow some silver to spend?" Xiaoxing flung his sleeves, ordering me to get lost and stay out of his sight. No wonder my father was such a jinx. I'd only seen him that day, yet by nightfall someone appeared in my bedroom. Feeling two timid figures approach my bedside, I quickly held my breath and pretended to sleep. In the darkness, I heard two male voices. "Your Highness soars like a dragon and a phoenix, possessing both literary and military prowess. Yet His Majesty intends to pass the throne to that good-for-nothing crown prince. It is truly unjust. Oh, it's my wretched father." The other voice sounded gloomy. Back when Xiaoxing vanished from the army, Father Emperor was filled with guilt. And now, because of that guilt, he intends to hand the empire over to a complete fool. He's truly gone mad. But seriously, couldn't you two just say this at home? You sneak around my bed in the dead of night just to call Xiaoxing a bumbling fool? That's unreasonable. Can't you show this person pretending to sleep a modicum of respect? Speaking of Xiaoxing, these two were seething with hatred. They traded barbs, and before long, they were deep in conversation. I could understand that feeling all too well. Xiaoxing really was a dog about his actions. 3 months ago, I'd have leaped from my deathbed, grabbed a tray of melon seeds, and joined them for a night of endless chatter. But now, as the fish on the chopping block, I'd finally had enough. I kindly reminded them, the Crown Prince's mansion changes guards every half hour. "Your Highness, Third Prince, could you two finish your business before chatting?" I swear, I meant no mockery in that remark. Yet the addressee seemed slightly flustered. "Whom do you think you're looking down on?" His Royal Highness the Third Prince straightened his back, as if to prove a point. The crown prince is absurd. How can such a miserly, petty man possess the bearing of a ruler? Of all Father Emperor's sons, only this prince is qualified to inherit the throne. My eyes widened in shock. How could His Majesty, with his brilliant strategic mind, have sired such an utterly foolish son? I retorted, the crown prince has overseen the realm for 5 years, and Great Liang has enjoyed peace and prosperity. If anyone in the court thinks him a blockhead, it's likely only the two of you. Seeing his face hadn't turned green enough, I added, as for the third prince, his daily extravagance and wealth amassed by fleecing the common folk do indeed match his so-called military achievements. The third prince, enraged by shame, immediately pulled a hemp rope from his sleeve to bind me. I gestured wildly at him, if you can't beat them, run away. What a useless fool. Clearly, this was his first time doing such a thing, his movements were clumsy and awkward. To save my life, I should have kept quiet. But I couldn't swallow my pride. So while His Royal Highness fumbled with the rope, he listened to my sarcastic commentary. Your Highness must cook often at home. I see the crabs on the steamer are tied just like this, arms and legs spread wide. Slow down. If you go to the underworld so fast, will the King of Hell even accept you? Left side, left side. Too tight, it's uncomfortable. My father stood motionless beside us. Perhaps feeling guilty, he avoided my gaze, shifting uneasily. How could he have conspired with the third prince? I recalled seeing Wang Yanyan leaving in a carriage with the third prince just days ago. A match made in heaven? A bird fluttered overhead, chirping softly. Outside the courtyard, the rhythmic clatter of guards changing shifts echoed. The third prince urged, quick, lend a hand. The hour is upon us. Silence followed behind him. Within the chamber, candlelight suddenly blazed bright. A maid bowed and withdrew quietly. Beneath the brightest night pearl, Xiaoxing stood with hands clasped behind his back, his handsome face bearing a faint indifference. Oh! Where might my third brother be taking the crown prince's consort? The words had barely left his mouth when a long sword slid from its scabbard, its silver-white gleam flashing as it stabbed toward his back. It was my father. My heart felt as if it had been wrenched from my chest, pounding like a drum. The sword moved with blinding speed, like a gust of wind. The blade reflected the night pearl's light, blindingly bright, stinging my eyes. I forced my eyes open wide, screaming at the top of my lungs, Xiaoxing, watch out. Xiaoxing turned and flashed me a smile before leaping out of the way. Sword light danced wildly, and I couldn't open my eyes. I could only hear the clash of weapons, blades meeting, until the sounds of combat ceased. Only then did I open my eyes. Xiaoxing was leisurely wiping his hands with a white handkerchief, calmly instructing the guards who had entered upon hearing the commotion, take him to the crown prince's private dungeon. Await further orders. Paying no heed to the others in the room, he strode swiftly to my bedside, his concern evident. Were you frightened just now? I nodded vigorously. The ropes binding me had long been untied. I threw my arms around Xiaoxing, burying my face in his shoulder. I was so worried about you, I murmured softly. Xiaoxing hadn't slept in my room that night, but he came to check on me every night at the third watch. Sometimes he'd tuck the quilt around me, other times he'd just sit there, staring at me in deep thought. He thought I didn't know. But I'm a light sleeper and was always awake. When I first noticed someone in the room, I pretended to be asleep, hoping to stall for time until the third watch. Later, I dared to speak because I saw the hem of Xiaoxing's robe. He stroked the back of my head, soothingly saying, "It's all right now." I burrowed deeper into his embrace and burst into tears. What would I have done if something really happened to you just now? Xiaoxing's expression softened, and he squeezed my large hand slightly tighter. Before half a second passed, my next words followed, "You still haven't told me where the key to your secret stash is." Thud. Xiaoxing tossed me onto the bed. His face dark with resentment, he stormed out. In the end, my father wasn't beheaded. Perhaps out of concern for my reputation, the news of my abduction never reached the outside world. My father relinquished his military authority and submitted a petition requesting retirement, taking his family back to their ancestral home in Shaanxi. Shaoxing secretly brought my mother out and hid her in a residence on the outskirts of the capital. When eunuch Wang found me, I had just finished writing a new story. He knelt before me, tears welling in his eyes. "Your Highness, please persuade His Royal Highness the Crown Prince." It turned out Shaoxing hadn't been idle lately. He had begun targeting the third prince with increasing frequency. Shaoxing systematically dismantled the third prince's connections within the court. Incidents occurred almost daily in the capital's defenses, which fell under the third prince's purview. Even the Marquis of Qing, the maternal family of the third prince's consort, was accused of corruption and bribery by the chief censor. After a series of such incidents, the emperor had noticed and begun to voice his displeasure with Shaoxing. Such fratricidal strife, even within the imperial family, was despised by all. Eunuch Wang mentioned that Shaoxing had once survived an assassination attempt, a truly life-threatening ordeal. A long scar still marks his waist to this day. That day, when he discovered someone sought to harm me, Shaoxing clenched his palm so tightly it drew blood. Back then, Shaoxing was young and powerless to protect himself. Now, wielding authority, he sought justice for those close to him. I lowered my gaze and approached Shaoxing, hesitating to speak. "There's something I've been hiding from you." Shaoxing raised an eyebrow. "Go on." I closed my eyes and steeled myself. "You probably didn't hear it, but that night I cursed the third prince. I cursed him so viciously, you should have seen him, his face turned green. And my fingers twisted the hem of my robe. So maybe we shouldn't pursue this matter. I mean, I've already insulted him. Third prince must be having a rough time these days." Shaoxing's face instantly turned cold. He shut the door on me, dismissing me. 17. It was no surprise when Wei Niannian came looking for me. On my way to Jingshan Temple, she appeared dressed in coarse linen, mouthing from afar, "Jiangsu." I followed her to a secluded spot. Wei Niannian always spoke in roundabout ways. Now that sister is in perfect harmony with His Highness the Crown Prince, she must have forgotten her old flame completely. I shot her a sideways glance. "Speak plainly." Wei Niannian choked on her words. "The Crown Prince cherishes you now. But if he knew of brother Jiangsu's existence, would he still treat you so well?" She remained unchanged. Only Wei Niannian, spoiled by my father, could believe anyone could win his favor effortlessly, as if they were him. When I was 9, my father went on a long journey. Upon his return, he declared that both Wei Niannian and I had reached the age for formal education and hired 2 tutors for us. One of them was Jiangsu. At the time, he was only 2 years older than me, a slender youth, though his face bore unsettling scars from a fire. Wei Niannian, likely frightened, whined her way into choosing the other tutor, leaving Jiangsu to me. Jiangsu seemed rather gloomy at first. He wasn't much of a talker. Each day, after completing the necessary lessons, he would sit by the window with a book in hand. His spine was straight as an arrow, like a noble orchid or a jade tree. Yet, he exuded a certain sense of loneliness. I tried to win Jiangsu over, hoping he might go easy on me during lessons. The previous tutor always punished me by making me copy books. Eventually, I drove him away. For that, my father punished me severely. I wasn't afraid of kneeling in the ancestral hall, but I dreaded seeing my mother cry. So I shared my mother's homemade pastries with Jiangsu. When my little dog had puppies, I gave him one to raise. I found every excuse to chat with him. When a servant at home said Jiangsu was hideously ugly and unfit to be seen, I had the servant dismissed immediately upon hearing it. At first, when I chattered incessantly to Jiangsu, his brow would furrow impatiently. Later, he began preparing tea and pastries for me in advance. When I mentioned my distress over my most beautiful tooth decaying, he instinctively took the pastries away. I cherished my time with Jiangsu. He never ignored me like my father, nor demanded obedience like my mother. Among the arts of music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, I loathed playing the zither most. Whenever lessons began, barely a stick of incense burned before I'd clasp my swollen fingers and seek Jiangsu, weeping in pain. Jiangsu would sigh, set the music aside, and patiently bandage my fingers. He never mentioned the zither again. One of us was lazy, the other indulgent, so after a year of lessons, I could play only one piece. Jiangsu claimed he composed it especially for me, which finally spurred me to master it. The moment her words fell, my heart felt torn apart, a faint ache spreading through my limbs. It wasn't because of Jiangsu, but because of Shaoxing. It seemed I didn't want to leave Shaoxing so badly anymore. A sense of reluctance slowly crept into the core of my being. I hadn't always been so obsessed with money. When I was 10, my mother fell ill with consumption. Her medicine required hundreds of taels of silver. At that time, Madame Lin managed the household finances. Yet she refused to give me the silver. I paced frantically in despair. In the end, it was Jiangsu who pawned his jade pendant to save my mother. Hundreds of taels, it seemed like nothing. A mere meal for a wealthy family. But in that critical moment, it bought my mother's life back. That was when I truly grasped the importance of silver. I began hoarding it relentlessly. Silver brought me a sense of security I'd never known before. Unlike Wei Nianyan, who had her father to protect her. Unlike my younger brother, who was the old lady's favorite. I treaded carefully, daring not to make a single mistake. Because no one would catch me if I fell. I walked alone, my slender back exposed to the biting wind. Yet the thought of my silver felt like a cloak draped over my shoulders, offering a faint comfort. This silver could buy me a way out. But, lately, I've discovered Shaoxing can also bring me security. The day I was attacked, Shaoxing embraced me from behind. His chest was warm, even warmer than that cloak. He stands up for me when I'm wronged, risks his life to save me when I'm in danger. My ability to run wild in the Crown Prince's mansion is largely thanks to his indulgence. I don't have to worry about causing trouble, I don't need to curry favor, I don't need to tread carefully. Shaoxing is like a pair of arms behind me, supporting my fragile spine. Steady and strong. I do love money. But if it's Shaoxing who's involved, not having money doesn't seem to matter much. I think I might just like Shaoxing a little. Seeing my grave expression, Wei Nianyan quickly added, as long as you help me stay in the capital, I promise the Crown Prince won't find out about this. I glanced up at her. Her eyes were filled with shrewdness and calculation. Playing with fire? I didn't care either way. Go tell him yourself. Later, I tested Shaoxing. If one day you discover I've hidden something from you, he was reviewing memorials, his head never lifting as he replied, deduct your entire monthly allowance. Game over. On Shaoxing's day off, I brought him to Jingshan Temple. I intended to lay everything about Jiangsu's existence before him. You can't hide the truth forever. Now was the time, before I was too deeply entangled. If Shaoxing objected, I could step back and be his loyal, dependable ally. The carriage halted at the mountain's base. Shaoxing tightened his grip on my hand, signaling me to wait before disembarking. When he returned, a hint of amusement flickered in his eyes. I recall you adored Chen's cloudflake cakes. Shall we see if the flavor has changed? My entire body stiffened. I stared blankly at Shaoxing and the light brown parcel he held. Untying the hemp string revealed layers upon layers of snowflake-like pastry. Once my absolute favorite treat. Something Jiangsu would always bring me whenever he went out. My voice caught in my throat several times before I finally managed to speak. Why do you think I like cloud cakes? I haven't eaten cloud cakes in 5 years. There was someone who used to bring them to me. Ever since he passed away, the taste makes me want to vomit. I simply can't bear it. Xiaoxing had climbed into the carriage without my noticing. He extended his thumb, gently wiping away my tears through the jade ring. Gazing into his dark eyes, I said, in this world, the only one who truly believed I loved cloudflake cakes was that person. At that moment, I seized his arm and bit down in frustration. Jiangsu, it was you, wasn't it? How foolish of me. There were so many coincidences. He knew Master Ling Yun. He could play the melody Jiangsu composed for me. Even the shape of their eyes resembled each other. Yet I never considered it. Xiaoxing pulled me into his still warm embrace. His large hand gently stroked the back of my head, a low hum escaping his lips. I bit his shoulder again, harder this time. Xiaoxing's voice was hoarse now. Good girl, Yao Yao. Deeper. After crying for a while, I started digging up old grievances. So what was that about disappearing back then? Did you just want to lead me on and abandon me? Xiaoxing stroked my cheek, sidestepping the question. Didn't you want to see the eternal lamp? I just stopped by to light an incense stick for myself. I sensed he was holding back. But why? Hiding in his embrace, I reached up to touch his face. His features hadn't changed much, except the burn scars unique to Jiangsu's face were gone. Xiaoxing looked curious. Why the blank stare? I extended my index finger and tapped his cheek again. What's the formula for that scar-removing ointment you used? It works so remarkably well, selling it on the market would surely make a fortune. Xiaoxing chuckled, his tone light as clouds. I was never injured. Back then, I was being hunted by enemies and had no choice but to wear a human skin mask as cover. Your clever little scheme, Yao Yao, seems destined to come up empty. I lowered my head and caught sight of the sachets at his waist, instantly sensing something was off. Do you have other dogs out there? What's the story with these sachets? Xiaoxing looked at me, puzzled. Recalling his affair with Xinwan, I sneered coldly, I saw everything. This is a gift from Xinwan. Xiaoxing slowly untied the sachet and handed it to me. Why not take another look? Xinwan couldn't possibly embroider something this hideous. These are the 2 plump geese you spent 3 sleepless nights stitching for me. I smacked him. Those are clearly mandarin ducks. I began genuinely considering Xiaoxing's future. In a few days, we'll quietly adopt a child from a collateral branch. I think your second brother's son is quite suitable, he's clever. Xiaoxing fell silent for a moment before his voice came out painfully. Am I not worthy of having my own child? Oh no. I'd forgotten to tend to His Royal Highness the Crown Prince's fragile pride. I gave a nervous chuckle. Why wouldn't you be worthy? That very night, Xiaoxing insisted on sleeping in my quarters. His gaze lacked sincerity, he hadn't even brought his bedding. Every gesture betrayed insincerity. So I firmly refused him. To my surprise, he withdrew from my room with the grace of a gentleman, polite and composed. But then, in the dead of night, he slipped back in under cover of darkness. Xiaoxing looked anxious and unsettled. When I close my eyes, I keep seeing that day when you were held hostage by my third brother. I feel uneasy unless I'm by your side. Moonlight seeped through the window. By its faint glow, I reached out to trace Xiaoxing's face, his nose, my thumb finally resting on his lips. Such thin lips, what would it feel like to kiss them? Xiaoxing caught my hand. Yao Yao, stop this. We have court early tomorrow. His chest was burning hot. My other hand slipped beneath the hem of his nightgown, touching a deep scar. Just as Eunuch Wang had described, it coiled like an earthworm across Xiaoxing's abdomen. My heart ached. I'd only ever seen Xiaoxing's polished, brilliant exterior, never knowing what he'd endured behind the weight of his crown prince status. Curiosity got the better of me. When did you get this? Xiaoxing didn't answer. Instead, he drew my finger to his lips and bit down gently. The pressure wasn't strong. Yet my heart skipped a beat. Xiaoxing chuckled softly, and I found myself flipped over. His eyes glistened, his voice husky. Yao Yao, will you show me mercy this once? When I opened my eyes again, Xiaoxing was leaning against the bed, draped in an outer robe, watching me with a half-smile. I flung a pillow at him. Liar! Didn't you say no? Xiaoxing held up 2 fingers in a solemn oath. I never said that. He explained gently, when we first married, you truly disliked me. I wouldn't force myself upon you. I remained irritated. And now? Yao Yao, you love me. I propped my chin on my hand, curious. When did your highness begin to like me? Surely not back at the Wei residence? I wasn't even 8 then. Xiaoxing made an excuse about state affairs and hurriedly made his escape. Another year, another palace banquet. After drinking some wine, I went to Lingyuan Pavilion to catch the breeze. There, I ran straight into His Majesty. At first, he said nothing, only staring intently at a painting for a long time. The figure in the painting had gentle features, it was the late Empress. After a long while, as if suddenly remembering me, he turned and asked, Xinger, do you know about the matter concerning the 3rd prince? Was he here to confront me, the source of all this trouble? I immediately knelt. Your Majesty, I have heard a little. The Emperor sighed deeply and helped me up. I know you've been wronged. Normally, I shouldn't interfere. But these past days, I keep dreaming of the Empress. She accuses me of neglecting our children, claiming it caused the discord between Xinger and the 3rd prince. I understood his meaning. Your humble daughter will return and advise the crown prince. The Emperor nodded with relief and said to me, I shall tell you a story. My instincts told me this matter concerned me, so I pricked up my ears to listen. Perhaps lost in recollection, the Emperor unexpectedly refrained from using the imperial pronoun I. During the reign of the late Emperor, I commanded an expedition against the Liao forces. Our armies faced each other along the banks of the Huai River. When the Liao launched a surprise attack, I ordered a 30-mile retreat to minimize casualties. Just then, Xinger came searching for me in the camp. Caught up in the urgency, I completely forgot about him. After realizing he was missing, I mounted a swift horse to search for him. Xinger was pressed against the crowd. Spotting me, he cried out "Father!" and began running toward me. At this point, the Emperor's voice caught slightly. Just 10 meters more. Just 10 meters and he would have reached my horse. A Liaodong spy recognized me, and many soldiers began closing in. I had no choice but to turn and flee. To this day, I cannot forget Xinger's eyes, tear-filled, filled with disbelief, demanding why I had abandoned him. But I had no choice. As commander-in-chief, sacrificing myself was insignificant. What of the 100,000 troops of Great Liang? Those soldiers, they too had families, were sons to their parents. Everything finally made sense. Last night, the 3rd prince mentioned Xiaoxing's disappearance from the army. It wasn't a disappearance, he was abandoned by the Emperor. When the Emperor saw my novel and wept, it was because I had inadvertently crafted a similar backstory for Wei Riching, stirring memories of his own past. If I'm not mistaken, it was then that Xiaoxing became Jiangsu, accidentally brought home by my father. No wonder he was always unhappy back then, seeming perpetually sad and withdrawn. When I'd pout and complain to him about father favoring my half-sister, Jiangsu would stroke my head and say his father was the same. Is that how it was? After a long moment, I finally found my voice to offer comfort. Your Majesty needn't blame yourself so harshly. I imagine Asang resented you at times, but ultimately he understood you. Because at the core, he and your Majesty are cut from the same cloth. Both possessed broad-mindedness, both carried the weight of the realm in their hearts. Somehow, I found myself at the gate of the Wei residence. Red lanterns hung as usual, their light shimmering and vibrant. My father seemed genuinely pleased to see me, flustered as he said, "Yao Yao, have you eaten? Why are you back so late? It's cold outside, why not come in and have something to eat?" I ignored his attentiveness and cut straight to the point. "That day, you wanted to send Wang Yanyan into the mansion as a pretext, but your real intent was to test who Asang truly loved, correct?" He averted his gaze and sighed deeply with regret. "I made a mistake. If the crown prince ascends the throne, the Wei family will never know peace." From my father, I learned the latter part of the story. My father brought Jiangsu home initially with some thought of repaying a debt of gratitude. At that time, the emperor was still the fifth prince, locked in fierce rivalry with the crown prince. No one knew who would ultimately prevail. If the emperor ascended the throne, saving his eldest son would be an immense favor. Yet in the ensuing political struggles, the emperor consistently held the weaker hand. In the most severe incident, the late emperor even stripped him of his military authority. My father saw the gravity of the situation. If the former crown prince ascended the throne, Shaoxing would undoubtedly become a dagger aimed at the Wei family. So my father, without anyone noticing, disposed of Shaoxing. I finally pieced together the full story and found it laughable. Driven by guilt, my father repeatedly struck at Shaoxing with deadly force, even exploiting his own daughter. Yet he was the one who had clearly done wrong. The most innocent Shaoxing still harbored compassion for my father, the man who had sought his life time and again. Was it because of me? It must have been because of me. Me, imperfect and unloved, shattered into countless pieces. Shaoxing carefully gathered those fragments, tucked them into his sleeve, cherishing and treasuring them. Suddenly, I longed to go home. I longed to embrace Shaoxing. He had been abandoned by many, teetering between life and death. The glory bestowed upon him by his status brought him equal peril. Yet, Shaoxing. He remained sincere and upright, upholding justice. To understand the harvest, he personally tended vegetables in the backyard. To grasp the lives of his people, he went out into the streets to help write letters for others. Eunuch Wang advised him, "Your Highness, with state affairs already so demanding, if you truly wish to understand the people's lives, simply summon a local official to inquire." Shaoxing smiled. "In high office, even if one asks the people directly, they likely dare not speak frankly. The surface may appear as splendid as a field of blooming flowers, but who knows how many pests lurk within. As long as I am the crown prince, I must shoulder the responsibility for the well-being of the nation's people." This was Shaoxing. No matter how much injustice he encountered, no matter how much darkness he faced, he swallowed it all. Then he brought light and hope to even more people. Times may change, but his integrity remains unbroken. On the day Xinwan left the capital, she sent a calling card to the crown prince's residence. After exchanging some small talk, Xinwan suddenly dropped a bombshell. "You must be the Mr. Ling Yun." My heart skipped a beat. She smiled and said, "Your Highness, please don't misunderstand. Others may not know, but I admired your Highness back then, so I paid more attention to him. Whenever Master Ling Yun published a new work, his servant would always sneak back with a copy. Later, seeing how fervently he pursued you, I simply made an educated guess." Recalling how Shaoxing had read my romantic novels, I flushed crimson. Xinwan bowed distantly to me. "I come today to apologize. Those rumors circulating in the capital, I was the one who spread them. After reading the secret chronicles of Riche, I assumed you held little affection for His Highness. So I thought I'd seize my chance, spreading rumors that I was the heroine in those stories. It caused the crown princess much trouble. I'm truly sorry." During dinner, I recounted this to Shaoxing. He swallowed a bite of bun and replied calmly, "And then?" Confused, I asked, "You knew all along?" Shaoxing gazed at me with a smile. "You've always been slow to catch on. If I hadn't pushed you, when would you have realized your own feelings?" I bit him. "You were spying on my storybook." Xiaoxing swept me onto the bed, his luminous peach blossom eyes narrowing slightly. That's called studying and learning. Otherwise, how could I ever win Yao Yao's heart? Outside the canopy, red candles flickered, incense smoke curling gently. In the distance, the midnight bell of Jingshan Temple tolled. Calm and distant. Just like Xiaoxing beside me, day after day, night after night. And